Exciting. Thank you for having me.
We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. We have a guest on the show today, and I'm pretty excited about this. This is a gentleman, if you're on TikTok, I'm sure you know who he is. He's one of the first people I saw on TikTok, and I kind of stole some of his gig when it came to doing my own TikToks. I watched TikTok for about 3 months before I actually did a TikTok, and he kind of helped me out as to give me a direction. So who we have on the show is Abe Gurko. If you're on TikTok, you know him as Won't Be Silent, and he's kind of a mainstay on TikTok and has been since I've been on TikTok. Abe, welcome to the show. I appreciate you taking the time to sit with us.
I am very pleased to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Um, for those people who know you from TikTok and those that don't know you from TikTok, uh, give us an idea who you are and how you ended up on TikTok. For God's sake, you're like me. You're an old man. What the fuck are we doing?
Well, I think we're young at heart, which is why we're still here.
True, true.
Okay. Um, yeah, I was like most of us really found it during COVID lockdown.
Right.
And what actually was happening before COVID, I was working on a film project called Won't Be Silent, which was about a piece of music that was found like by some kind of miracle that was written during the Holocaust in a concentration camp as a song of resistance to the Nazis that my uncle wrote, which he was killed. And by coincidence, the museum in Washington, D.C. found this book with somebody had said, "Remember that song we used to sing?" And from another survivor. And I thought, there's a movie in here. I don't know. It's like too incredibly coincidental that this piece of music was found in and around the same time as the Nazis were marching in Charlottesville. So that was a wake-up call to me, and that became a project. It became my passion project that I'm still in the midst of doing, which I was filming, and of course, COVID happened, and then nothing. Boom.
I,
So
I
then here we are, and just to finish, the message of the film and the song is what better way to say I won't be silent than by voting, and hence my romance with TikTok.
right, right. I've said to people before, there are people I talk to and they say, well, nothing ever goes my way. Nothing ever happens the way I want to. I'm a firm believer that we all get opportunities on a regular basis. It's not that the opportunities aren't there. It's that you've got to be able to recognize it and have the motivation to do something. The story you just told us is without question an opportunity that not only should
Yeah.
be done, has to be done. It's a wonderful message, and it's kind of serendipitous that it all came together the way it came together. It may not be where you want it now, but it's going to get there. Because,
No,
like me,
I believe in that. I think it's and fate, of course, and all those kind of philosophical things. But I feel like when you find your mission, when you find why you matter, you then know the roadmap then just unfolds in front of you, and you just have to have the tenacity and the patience to deal with I'm not in the business to be able to say whatever. And I've had a lot of people say no to me on this project, but it doesn't stop me from wanting to continue and just putting one foot in front of the other.
well, absolutely. I think when you get to be of our age, I'm 64, you're a bit older than that. Um, there's a lot of people who just pack it in and don't have a direction. They aren't chasing something. And I think that's when
Hmm.
you start to get old, when you aren't chasing something. So then,
Definitely.
then you and I both end up on TikTok. And the thing that interested me about Abe is that he's of a like mind. And the one thing I really appreciate about Abe is, and the connection I think we have is that you're a fucking smart ass. And so am
Yeah.
I.
That's why I love, like, yeah, that's why I feel like we're like members of the same tribe in terms of it's not necessarily just our age, but it's our reference. It's the reference of your relationship to the culture that we live in, because we live on different sides of the culture and different sides of the country,
Right.
yet we could probably have, coffee every single day and find something to talk about.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
that whole beautiful thing about what TikTok was originally, which is what the internet was originally, like 20 years ago. It
Right.
was finding your community, and we were able to do that again.
Well,
So it was a blessing, really, for me.
have you found that to me that I found that to be very gratifying is that when I first decided I was going to go on TikTok, and I went on TikTok for the very reason is to have a podcast. I knew I couldn't just start a podcast without having somebody know who I am, so I thought TikTok might be the easy way. I figured I'd get about 10,000 followers and maybe try to translate them into the podcast. But the most gratifying thing I've found, because my audience is 45 to 65 or maybe even older. Basically, there's younger ones too. But I was incredibly impressed by how many people of our age group that would come together, listen to what I have to say, what you have to say, get on board. And that gave me a sense of power because when we're talking about boomers or Gen X or Gen Jones or Generation Jones or whatever, there's a lot of us. A lot, young people want to put old people out to pasture. You did it, I did it back in the day, but there's still a lot of us around, and we represent a lot of power and money. And if we can bring people together, we can get some shit done. And that's what we're trying to do,
which is
both of us.
which is unfortunate, because the word on the street, the way the media talks about this app, TikTok specifically, is that it's only young people, and it's really not. I mean, my community, and I look at my analytics, is definitely 40 plus.
Yep.
And I'm into that. And I actually spend more time deleting, people that I know are either bots or just annoying or just disagree with me.
Right.
It's my
Right.
app. It's my platform. You
Right.
know what I mean? I want to coagulate the way in the beginning. Remember in the beginning when you started getting followers and
Yeah.
people were really getting it and giving you comment, that same enthusiasm. I don't want, when we start losing that enthusiasm, when the app does stupid tricks to you,
Yeah.
it becomes like disappointing, and then you look for somewhere else to go and get your message out there. But look, it's been awesome, and as horrible as COVID was for the planet, it's like any other loss in life. It's a teaching moment, it's an opportunity to grow. It's what can I learn from this? And I think you and I both found a platform to feel connected to, wanting to communicate with people, which is what we need. It's human nature.
Well, the thing about it is back in our day, back in say the 60s or even the 70s, there was a lot of communications between neighbors and people you work with and people you knew and your families, and that doesn't really happen anymore. It's really weird. The communication levels is a lot less than it once was. So you and I weren't going to accept that, and we started blabbing on the fucking internet, and then we start the conversation
Blabbing.
again. And I think conversations between people is the way to get things done. If you can get
Definitely.
people talking, then we can actually accomplish something. And for I'm sure you feel the same way too. When I first started doing this, I didn't know what was going to happen or anything, but I think with people like you and me and some of the others on TikTok and all the people that follow us, we're getting something done. We're having an impact. I think it's
I
working to an
agree. I
extent.
mean, I love the people that are in my, network, that I don't like using the word followers anymore, because it's, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
I wish I had a bigger ego, but the thing is, I feel like they're so funny, like their comments. I mean,
yeah,
sometimes I could just read the comments and just, it's hilarious.
right.
They're more funny than half of the content producers. And these are the
Absolutely.
people who don't want to be doing videos, they are. I'm sure
Oh
you
yeah.
got thousands of them. But yeah, I just think it's been a blessing, and where it's denied other aspects of my life to come to fruition. I just have to hang in there and see that, things look, I've been freelance my whole life, and that comes and goes. So if you're used to living on a roller coaster, you know what I mean? When when you're on the bottom of the slope, it's like it's less scary than when you're at the top. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, yeah. No, I do. It's funny. You talk about your followers, and I don't like calling them followers either. I call them peers because that's the only other word I can think of that really
Right, that's
fits the
good.
situation. But what you're saying about intelligent and funny, the people that follow you, that's why on this podcast, I'm the only podcast I know that does this. But the vast majority of my guests are listeners. They send me an
Yeah,
email,
that's
say,
cool.
Mike, I want to talk to you about whatever. And they are brilliant. They make me look so
Yeah.
fucking good. That's why I was happy to get you on because I know you can talk. I'm going to look real good on this one.
Yeah, I do love talking, I have to say. I was the youngest in the family. I don't know where you are
Oldest.
in that. Huh?
I'm the oldest.
Uh,
So I'm the
so the
coolest.
oldest and the youngest are usually the most vocal. My
Yeah.
sister, my oldest sister is, and I surely am. But yeah, and the thing is, when you look, it's like anything else. When you get a good positive response, I mean, just imagine those days when things were building to like a crescendo, 10,000, 20,000. And again, I can't break 300,000, but it's kind of like I spend more time deleting people that I know are just clogging my
Yeah.
box that I don't, it doesn't matter. And it's not quantity, it's quality. You
I
know what
agree.
I mean? Yeah.
I think if I didn't block my um all the Trumplefucks that come to my page, I'd have more than I have now. But I don't care. What I have now is so crazy to even imagine that I have is way above.
Delicious. It's just
I'm
it's
happy with it.
delish.
I'm content. I mean, if I don't get
Yeah.
another follower, I don't give a shit. That's not what I'm here for. I'm
Yeah.
not here for followers. I'm hopefully trying to accomplish something. But did you feel like an urgency when you did get into TikTok and you're obviously talking about politics like I am? Was there some sense of urgency in you that felt like you had to do something?
Oh, of course. I mean, we were entering the most contentious. I mean, think about March, April, and May of 2020, what was going on.
Right,
And I'll tell you something else. The Tulsa rally,
right.
when what's his name died, Herman Cain died.
Herman Cain, yeah.
It's not funny that he died, but he died
It's
because it
kind of
was
funny.
ironic
It's
enough
kind of
to,
funny.
yeah, it's kind of funny. But when I s- when everyone on TikTok was ordering those tickets and there was this
Yeah,
fervor, you could like it was like really it was better than sex. I'm sorry. It felt so community driven and we were in our homes and that was all we could do. So the urgency of that, and when he got off that famous photo that they still end up showing, when he gets off the helicopter on coming back from Tulsa and is taking off his tie, and you just know that he realized he was going to lose.
yeah,
And that was April. And if I'm not mistaken, or June, when we the April or June, but whenever the debate between Joe and him happened, I think that was in August.
right.
The plan had already been put in place. Stand back and stand by was not a slip up. That
No,
was He came off that plane, and that January 6th went into motion. Period. And that's
right.
how long it took to plan that thing. And I am convinced that I am right. So that sense of urgency has been with me. Of course, the project being Won't Be Silent felt like an opportunity to just really tell people, your vote is your voice. Come on, man. We got to do this. We got to keep that man back. We got to get him out. That was more urgent than getting like a proctology when I turned 50. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean, that
I know
was
what you mean.
everything because
Yeah.
it was life and death. It was life and death,
Well,
clearly for people.
the thing about it is when we first started out doing the things we do with Donald Trump, it seemed like he could wriggle out of everything, and we were climbing uphill. But I think we've come to a point, and see if you agree with me. I think we've come to a point where we've turned the corner, and now instead of trying to beat them back, we now have them on the run. And this is the last
Yeah,
time we need to fucking let up. We need to pour on the steam now. We've got to finish this thing to make sure the cancer doesn't metastasize.
yeah. I mean, I feel, I vacillate these days between we're gonna win and then oi and win and like I'm more concerned because of what's going on in the Middle East,
Yeah,
not because of the religion, but because of the apathy which you initially mentioned. That was why we had him in the first place,
right.
and the apathy that's now happening with the Gen Z. And quite honestly, I mean, Michigan can go fuck itself. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? With their like undecided. Oh, really? You're undecided? How brilliant of you. That, you hear what that sounds like? That means you're stupid because you can't make a decision.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
as and the other thing that I beseech people that I'm sure you've seen is that if you're having a problem with Joe, I get it. It's not for everybody. But if you don't decide that your rights are more important than something that's happening 7,000 miles away, then you shouldn't live in this country.
Absolutely. I've not delved too deeply into the Israeli Hamas thing, mainly because I'm an old white guy, a Gentile, sitting in middle America that doesn't know fuck all about it. The only thing I do know is they've been fighting this war over and over again for fucking decades since well before you or I were born. Um, and the fact of the matter is no matter what I say, I'm going to have half the country pissed off at me. So I just tell
Right.
people I don't have a dog in this fight. But you're a man of the Jewish faith. Um, I sometimes get a sense that argument is a lot like the Republican Democrat argument. This is my club. No matter what they do is fine. I'm in this club. No matter what my club does is fine, even if it's horrible, even if it's horrific. That's my team, so I'm on it. And I just don't understand that mentality. But as a Jewish man, you have a little more
No,
credibility
I
in
have
terms.
skin in the game, but you want to know something? The guy who introduced me to my husband, who's Israeli,
Mhm.
is Moroccan Muslim, and had that happened, I don't know if that would happen again now.
Right,
Like because I was an assimilated Jew for so many years prior to finding this piece of music and reconnecting with my heritage. And I mean, I'm not religious in the religious sense at all because I find any religion extreme. I don't want anybody near, any extreme,
right,
whether
right.
it's religious or political. Keep me centered, cozy, right in the middle. But I feel like it's different. What the thing is, I never hated Republicans until
No,
Trump.
right, right,
And I
exactly.
never hated Muslims until Hamas.
Right.
So what are we doing here? So it's these factions that drive people like me into a position of like, now I'm not going to trust. You know what I mean? It's unnecessary. And by the way, like, who attacked us in 9/11? Like, why are we giving carte blanche in the streets of the United States to these crowds of people who are making unrest? It makes Black Lives Matter seem like, Mary had a little lamb,
Right,
garden parties
right,
everywhere.
right. I said something, and I'll see if you agree with this. This isn't about Israeli people against Muslim people or Palestinians. That's not the war. The war is with uh, Netanyahu and
Oh, horrible.
Putin and the people in between. And people say, Putin, what do you mean Putin? Putin has some skin in this game too. He
$100%.
he influences Iran, who influences Hamas. And
Right.
Putin gains from this because it takes the attention away from the massacres he's creating in Ukraine. It's all a big fucking international game. And you've got a lot of good people, citizens of Israel and citizens of Gaza, that are just
Uh,
nothing more than collateral damage.
100%. It's I don't think it's ever going to go away.
No.
But I find what I find most uh, just unconscionable is how we are allowing the amount of unrest in the streets that our policing is doing such a failing job. What went on in New York, where they're chasing women who are alone coming from that Biden event,
Right.
and mobs are scaring her, calling her a murderer. Come on. How is that? You know what? Like, I don't understand why. I mean, I just always attribute it to somewhere in there, there's some oil money.
Yeah.
Somebody's benefiting from oil money somewhere, and it was allowing this to happen, like what happened at the universities. But you know what? I want to just stay focused on keeping America blue and democracy, And if we lose our democracy, I would rather go to Israel and fight for democracy, because that's what that whole country is all about.
Right. Right.
And it would be a shame that we would go step backwards into, like, not even the 1950s. We're talking about pre-America. I don't even know what
Well, when people talk to me about Israel and Hamas, I say, look, I know it's a terrible thing. I know there's a lot of bad shit going on. But unfortunately, we got a lot of bad shit going on here. We're hanging by a thread in terms of democracy. If we aren't healthy, we can't help anybody. So let's get us healthy
exactly.
and then worry about helping other people. Now, you said something that
That's why
usually,
I say that's why my philosophy on, if you become a one issue voter,
yeah.
Joe's going to win in a landslide.
Well,
The end.
and one issue voters is the whole reason Donald Trump has a base. The evangelicals, who I fucking hate. And if evangelicals are listening to me and you want to complain, fuck you. It's my podcast. But my point, my point is this: I'm convinced that they are willing to look the other way on anything Donald Trump does, as long as he pushes the Roe v. Wade, overturning Roe v. Wade. They were a one issue situation, and they will give their soul away
Yep.
just to get that one thing.
Yep. And
And
that is why, yeah, again, that's why we have to be one issue voters. If you're a woman, and I'm not saying if you're an evangelical woman, but if you're a rational woman who's independent, a Democrat, or someone that's just not voted for a while, but still believe that abortion is an important thing to have as an option for your granddaughter, your grandchild, your neighbor's kid, whatever, then that's your issue. And that should be the issue you vote on. The end. Forget Joe's name. Forget Trump's name. Just look at the issue and who's got your back. Who has your back? And that's Joe. If it's you're an environmentalist, these Gen Z people that are like forfeiting their environmental rights, they're not going to vote for Joe, and they're going to just let that slip between the cracks to the people who want to go drill, baby, drill. By
yeah.
all means, have a good life. I'm at my final stage here, kids.
Well,
You
here's
know
the
what I
thing.
mean? The tidal wave is not going to sweep me away here in the
Right.
middle of Los Angeles.
Right. My kids will be throwing my dust in the lake before anything bad happens. So, but but the thing about it is that when you talk about Michigan and the undecided and such, um, my problem with that is it's much like what the Republicans do. It's all performative, not substantive. And what I mean by that is these people aren't going to vote for Donald Trump. They're trying to pressure Joe Biden to do what they want them to do. And they're playing this game, and Joe Biden's only going to do what he can possibly do. But they're mad at Joe about what he's doing, in spite of the fact that he's trying to do all these things to help the people in Gaza, trying to get ceasefires and stuff. And you're saying, I don't want to vote for Joe. What's your alternative? You're going to vote for the fucking treasonist who already said that he was willing to let Israel do whatever the fuck they want? That's your better option? Please, you got to be thinking better than that.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole point. The point is that they don't really have a point.
No,
The
they
point
don't.
is that they're emotionally connected to this idea, and if that's their issue, by all means vote for it. But who are you going to vote for? RFK Jr.? Good luck with that. He's pro-Israel too. I
Yeah.
mean, good luck listening to that on the news every day. I'm sorry, I don't care what I sound like. I don't want to hear that voice every day on the news, you know what I mean?
No, and that's an argument people say, well, if, whenever I talk to people on TikTok or whatever, and you kind of caught my attention there when you said sometimes I think we're going to win and sometimes I think we're not so sure. I'm absolutely sure that Joe Biden is going to win in a fucking walk in November,
I know, that's
unless
why I love you so much, because
unless
I need to hear you a lot more than,
well,
than
well,
myself.
and part of it is because I've got some weird idiosyncrasy where I do take all the emotion out of it. Everybody I talk to is emotional about it, and they're fearful of it, and they should. But I'm somehow able to compartmentalize it and look at the facts and go, well, here are the facts. And I think the Roe v. Wade thing ends it for the Republicans. You can't take away
Yeah.
rights from 50% of the people, women of all folks, and then piss off 75% of the country and expect to win a fucking election. I mean, Gary Hart, all he had was some bimbo on his knee a while back and he got kicked out of the election. You
It's
don't think abortion's going to be an issue? It's going to be a huge issue.
Or what about Howard Dean, who just went rah?
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
that was the end. I
Yeah.
mean,
Howard
that's
Dean.
why you and I understand the moment so well, because we're here and have found our voice in a platform that historically everyone is saying is not for us old people, which is bullshit. And secondarily, we've lived through this culture shift, the 60s to the 70s. I mean, my first activist moment was in seventh grade when the moratorium to end the war in Vietnam was happening,
Right.
and all the students were marching on the because of the war in Vietnam, and the draft was happening, and my sister's boyfriend I mean, it was like a time. I mean, it was such an intense emotional time in American history. Every night on the 10 o'clock news, it would be the list of all the people who got murdered, who got killed in Vietnam. I
Right.
mean, we were living in an unprecedented emotional time, which when you look back at that, when I look back at that, because I was so connected to it, and I look at these bimbo idiots, young people that are just fighting for something that has nothing to do with their own life and their own sisters and their own brothers, it just makes me feel like you're missing the boat on the fact that we live in the greatest country in the world, I thought.
Right.
And if that means and if that's it, then you have to fight for it first. Because without, like you said, without this place, everyone's going to be in trouble.
Well, you brought up the 60s, and I've brought this up before too. People will tell me, oh, we've never had a time this bad. How can the country make it? And I said, I know the country could make it because if you look at the 60s, and then people are going to get fucking mad at me, but it was more turbulent than it is now. I mean,
Definitely.
we had a war, we had the draft, we had women's rights, we had riots, we had civil rights, we
Civil
had
rights, gay rights, it was all culminating in the late 60s. And then you had then you had like the summer of love. You had like peaceniks and you had drugs. And are you kidding?
and we had
They, we
four
wish
major
it was that easy.
assassinations. We had four major assassinations. It was
Yeah.
fucking
I mean,
turbulent.
yeah. It was far more this is like a helicopter parented version of the 60s.
It is
You know
kind of.
what I mean?
And I'm not saying we had it worse. I mean, I was in my single digits in the 60s because I was born in 1960. I'm watching this on TV. I remember my mom coming in the living room one time and I'm crying. I'm like 7 years old. I'm crying. And she goes, "What are you crying about?" I said, "Mom, I don't want to go to college." I go, "What? What do you mean?" And I'm watching the riot in the Madison
Kent?
campus. No, Madison.
Yeah.
There was riots and people in buildings and all kinds of shit. It was
Oh, yeah,
incredibly
yeah.
turbulent. But the thing is, for me, when I was in that age, I didn't know any different. I just thought it was always fucking like that. But then we found our
Yeah.
way out of it. And in the 70s, I spent
Right.
most of my time drinking beer and chasing girls. So it was a lot better when we got out. We got through it.
Well, I found drugs and was very happy personally, whatever. But
Yeah.
no, just to say that, so I stopped my grade school. I was in seventh grade, And my sister was one of the college kids, like on the steps of the Capitol protesting, and I did that, and I stopped the eighth grade. I stopped the school from going into class that day, and it felt like this really empowering thing to be part of something that meant something, you know.
Right. Right.
And I always that always stayed with me. And then when the women's rights movement was happening and gay rights, it was all the 70s where marching was like we were much more apt to get in the streets back then. I mean, here
Right.
it's more us on keyboard warring,
Right.
you
Right.
know what I mean?
But you
Whatever.
but you know what the thing that taught me though was that when I look back to the hippies and the protesters and the civil rights and a lot of people, a lot of older people look down their noses at these folks, but you can't deny they got some shit done. They got some shit changed. They stopped the war. They got civil rights. They got more rights for LGBTQ and women and all this sort of stuff. Progress was made.
Women's rights moved forward. We got the medication for people with AIDS that
Right,
Reagan wanted, didn't want. I mean, a lot of stuff got done, and that's which paved the way for Clinton, who got tons of stuff done,
right, right,
like an
exactly.
economy that you could be proud of, you
Yeah.
know.
And you
And
know what
here
the
we are now. It's just like we're forever like twirling in a toilet, our economy. You know what I mean? I don't care. And can I say something which is just goes
sure.
brings back to something that I heard today on TikTok? You know why? You know what's a problem with the Democrats and the way we message, not me and you necessarily, but just Democrats, is that they're talking about these kind of because a study came out of the by a bunch of economists at MIT, and the minute you say that, you're not going to get the everyday
No,
person
no.
to go, oh, really? At MIT, what did they say? You know what I mean? Like and just the fact, and again, I like celebrities ish, but the fact that the Democrats always do these celebrity events, like, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They,
Well, I think
no.
you and I found I think you and I found out in doing what we're doing, we have to appeal to the average Joe.
Yeah,
people will come up to me and say, "Oh, you got that many followers. You're famous." No, I'm not fucking famous. I may be notable among small circles of people, but I'm not famous. And the fact that I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
famous makes it more credible. I mean, the thing is that um everybody said when you go on TikTok, you got to have a niche. I gotta have a fucking niche. Maybe I'm a baby boomer who's not a raging misogynistic, racist, anti-Semitic prick. So that's weird. Um, but
Well,
but
that's good.
but
You
but
know what I mean?
but I think for me what dismays the Trumplefucks is that I'm a liberal but I talk like a
Right,
Republican. I'll get in your face and I'll say some shit. And they don't know what to do with
right.
that. And I know they don't know what to do with it. So I try to exploit that.
Yeah, I mean, I love my anti-Trump's positions, and I have a deep history. It's not just because of him being president. When I was living in New York City, he had a sister-in-law who was the doyenne, one of the queen, one of the swans of New York, which
Yeah.
was Blaine Trump. She was married to his brother, but she was like totally cool and awesome. And she helped raise millions of dollars for this organization called God's Love We Deliver, which delivered food and made food for people who were homebound with AIDS. And she was like a Democrat and cool and chic and whatever. So we, New York, the Democratic city of the world, loved her. And he was seething with jealousy because she would do the best events and the best fundraisers, and everybody wanted to be friends with her. He would show up at our events like stinking like cheap cologne, of course, and just miserable. And so I mean, I think he's been part of him and Giuliani ruined New York in the 80s. They were the initial yuppies, which kind of destroyed
Right.
anything cool about New York City. You know what I mean? So I go back to the 80s with Can't Standing Him, you know. S-
Well, and the thing that I think we found out, when he first came in, everybody forgave him and said, oh, he's playing 3D chess. The fact of the matter is, he's a very ignorant human being. on many levels, not just
Mhm.
academically, but morally and all this stuff. He's not a smart man. And we're seeing it become more evident in his inability to put together sentences and ideas. I think at this point, he's got his own ignorance, his own stupidity, his own narcissism, but the pressure is getting too much. And I think that's ultimately will take him down. When you have 91 felony charges and you have them taking away every bit of money you have and all this stuff, for you and I in our 60s would have a tough time handling that and being able to survive. I don't think he can make it through that. I think it's going to
I mean,
destroy
I've
him.
said on a few occasions, yeah, I think he's going to explode too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's my hope as to why he won't run, is that he's going to explode in time. But he has Alzheimer's. There's no question. He's
Yeah.
got frontal lobe Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
I did a post. That's the one post about him that keeps getting keeps getting views. When you see how he stands, there's like it's if you look at I did it like I think a week ago. He stands like somebody has frontal lobe dementia. They
Yeah.
stand at an angle, and that's whatever. Anyway,
I I
he
I
also
I
go ahead.
wondered well, when he was standing like that, I thought it was either the frontal lobe stuff or his diaper's full and he needs to he needs to get a change because it's not feeling good.
Or the vagina under his neck was like weighing too.
Yeah, no shit. No shit.
Maggie, Mermaid Maggie on TikTok,
Yeah, I
real
believe I
pretty
do.
gal. Yeah, she did it. If you go look at her Instagram today, she did a whole, collage of all of his neck close-ups to crack up. She ends up going, I should call her. Anyway, I just want to say one last thing. In the aughts, I guess in 2008, when Barack Obama came in and the economy took a huge dive in 2008, I was in the fashion industry back then in New York, and everyone's business went into shit like overnight, right? People were canceling contracts left and right in the center. And I started a blog that I'd never done before, but it was like everyone was pretending everything was fine. And I was like, nobody's fine. What's everyone talking about? So it was called what.com, right? And it was
Okay.
always like just kind of reporting on how like the emperor's new clothes and politics and celebrities and whatever. But I Trump was so getting on my nerves back at that era in the 2008 to 2012 era that I started handing out the gross baboon of the year awards.
Wow. He had
And
to be
he
a
won a
perennial.
couple of and he won a couple of years in a row.
Wow.
So that's why I always refer to him as a gross baboon. I don't know if you've ever noticed,
I have
but I'm
noticed,
always
yeah. Everybody has their own little word. Did you see the recent meme before he was supposed to put up that bond? Um, they started calling him Don Corleone.
Tom Leon. I love that one. Yeah.
I do. That's what
There's so many funny people on social media. I'll tell you one thing, I'm not a big Twitter person. I find it to
I'm
be
not
just
either.
like whatever, but you can get some hilarious images and inspiration for your posts. I definitely mine Twitter to get posts and visuals.
Yeah, absolutely.
So much fun.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break here, but first,
Okay.
one of the reasons you're here, and I want to mention this a couple times so people get it, because I think they'll be very interested. Um, you have the distinction of having written a book. Why
Yes.
don't you tell us about the book? Won't be
It won't
silent.
be silent. Don't stop till it matters. That's the kicker part of this whole thing. And it's just it's a memoir. However, it's much more well, see, Alzheimer's runs in my family. So as I said, I just wanted to write down whatever I could remember before it's too late.
Right.
But it's identifying the key pivotal stories and moments in my life that were the huge teaching moments, the things that either propelled me into action, the things that steered me away from my family and onto a journey. I mean, I'm like Dorothy in the kind of way that I just needed to get out of the farm in the Midwest or New Jersey, as the case was. And, between death and loss and health issues and things that I've had to survive and ending of relationships. And and working in Hollywood, which I didn't get to yet, but I did work in this town on and off for years, working with Carrie Fisher, which was like literally me now not being Dorothy, but more like Alice going through the looking glass, and then spending years in that A-list celebrity hullabaloo going, what the fuck? These people got nothing on me. I'm out of here. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So because that's it, you get through the looking glass and they're just people.
Yeah. They're
They're just
just,
people with foibles and depression and farting and annoying, what
yeah.
anyway, so it's a book about the key moments that I think what's universal about it is that we all go through changes. We all have to accept that this has happened and I need to either make a decision to go forward in a positive way, or is it going to send me back? And ultimately it leads into this moment where you and I met.
Right.
It ends in 2020, and the moment of like, we won.
Yeah.
Like my uncle, the song Won't Be Silent was the message and the meaning for me to make it so that if the last thing I can say, if I got killed on the day after the election, I could say, we got him out of the White House. You can
Yeah.
kill me now. You know what I mean? So I feel so that's the journey of the book.
Well, I think you and I have a commonality. I haven't read the book yet. I will read the book, but um, based in the messages, one thing I tell people that are worried and anxious right now, they say, "Why aren't you worried and why aren't you anxious?" And I think you can relate to this. I said, because I'm 64 years old. I went through every trial and tribulation and tragedy any human can go through. I had days where I thought there would be not another day. I didn't know where my life was going. I didn't know if I would survive. Yet at 64 years old, I'm sitting here comfortably. So if I can get this far, I can finish the end run for about 20 or
Yeah.
20 more years. And
Yeah.
but I think where I feel some commonality with you too is that you seem to go at things the way you should, I think. Instead of having this set out plan, I'm going to do this and this is the way it's going to be and then I'll retire and I'll do you kind of go in a direction that works for you, and you'll probably get pushed off to one side or another, ended up doing something you didn't ever think you would do, but it ends up being
Definitely.
cool. And you just kind of keep pushing forward and you will be brought
Yeah.
to where you need to be brought to.
Yeah, I just before our break, I just want to say a friend of mine read the book and she called me and she said, and she's known me. This is a 55-year long friendship. That's
Right.
like a long. To even say that is not
Right.
even a normal thing. She said, "You've made me rethink what things did I miss by not just going forward, just
Right.
shooting, just saying whatever, que sera, sera, whatever, just." And she took the much more conservative path than traditional, and always the steady job, the steady thing, the steady thing, and I didn't. And she said, I'm just wondering how much of my life I miss. And that's why there's a universal conversation, which is what I want to do as part of this rollout, is have conversations with people, because I'm so into the we the people thing
Yeah.
more than just the than the politicians and it's going to come down to us again. We did it once. We did it in 19, we did it in 1776, you know what I mean? And
Right.
we'll do it again.
Yeah.
And if we care enough about ourselves, we will do it. If
And
we love ourselves, we will do it.
if
This
we
is about, do you love yourself or not?
do you love
And
yourself and do you
that's,
have confidence? And
yeah.
I think you and I are a testament to that confidence, because in 2020, 2021, we both decided, at 60 years of age or maybe older than that, fuck it, we're going to do TikTok. Now, nobody in their wildest
Hmm.
dreams would have thought that was a good idea, but somehow you and I thought, yeah, that's a good idea. We'll fucking do it. And it
Totally.
worked.
You
All
don't
you have
like
to
it?
do
Go
is
fuck yourself.
yeah, and all you have to do is make the effort. Believe in yourself and
Yeah.
fucking do it, and you will do it. There's no question
And
about it.
I have met the greatest people.
Yeah,
I've done like 50 of these kind of Zooms too, with people that I just kind of, one thing leads to another. And just it's the miracle of communication of between, you know, people with like minds.
right.
And again, I really feel it boils down to self-love. If you love yourself, you're going to make the right choice come this election
Absolutely.
because you love yourself.
Where can
Forget
they get the
about
book?
this, forget about this, and forget about that.
Where
Do
can
you
they get the
love
book?
yourself? Huh?
Where can they get the book?
Oh, Amazon, just put either Abe Gurko in Amazon. It's on Kindle. It's soft cover, hardcover. The audiobook's coming out sometime in April, but by all means, Amazon, Abe Gurko won't be silent. And neither should you. Dr. Ruth said it. I won't be silent, and neither should you.
abs-
So
abs-
there you go.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Abe, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. I'm having a great time with the conversation. We'll talk about more stuff, maybe more specific politics and that stuff, and we'll remind
Okay.
people about the
I
book.
have something I want to talk about too, which
Uh,
is getting Jim Jordan out of that fucking
oh,
office.
let's fuck that up because
Oh,
I'm
don't
on
even
board.
start with me. Forget about Joe Biden for a minute, honey. We have to focus on that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Okay, great.
All right. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. We have the good fortune of having Abe Gurka in. You know him on TikTok as Won't Be Silent. Got a brand new book. We talked about it before the break. We'll talk about it again before we wrap up the show to make sure you folks know exactly what it is and where to get it. I would recommend you buy the book. The book, from what I understand, and I haven't read the book yet, but from what you've told me so far and what I've read about it, um, it's it's an inspirational thing and maybe kind of a uh, gives people a direction. As older guys, we can tell people about what's in front of them and what works and what doesn't work, and it's a guide essentially for people who are kind of lost at this point.
Yeah, it's like it says. I invite you to join me in the celebration of a life that I finally call worth living. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you get there, you know when like the gig is up and you need
right.
to do something to feel like, okay, I got to do something else. You just know those. And I think we all go through those. So the universality is just the stepping stones that we have to go through in life to get us to the other side of pain and suffering, emotional trauma, and then find your happy place, wherever that'll be. And there's no judgment on what yours or mine is. Mine was I knew I wanted to write a book when I was young, and it never was able to find, the drill. It's like you
Right.
put it off for tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. So this was it, and now it's, here, and it's like I say, if I could give anybody any gift, it's how I felt when I handed it in and knew
Yeah.
that it was finished. And it was a feeling that I think if everyone had this feeling, there would be no wars, there would be no left and right and red and blue, and there would be this kind of peaceful tranquility that accomplishing goodness for yourself. It comes back to loving yourself. Why, if you love yourself, you're going to vote for the right character to make America America again. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Now, we want to get into some of the politics of the day, and you obviously
Okay.
have some great insights, but I would be remiss if I don't make you talk about what you mentioned earlier about your time in Hollywood and with Carrie Fisher. People are going to want to know all about that shit, so please tell us.
Well, I mean, I have to be, streamlined, but yeah, I moved to Hollywood and I wanted to be in the business. My intention to come to Los Angeles because of my love of history and story making, the history of Hollywood and storytelling, um, is coincidentally a friend of mine from grade school. Actually, the friend from that seventh grade marching and keeping this, from the moratoriums and the world. I met that girl that day. 40 years later, she was working for Carrie Fisher, and Carrie needed somebody to help her kind of get coached to kind of I'm like a good motivational kind of person, and she
Right.
needed some. She just had a baby, and she needed somebody to help her get back to writing, which is what she was doing for a living at that time. And she said, "Hey, you want to meet Carrie?" I'm like, "Hello, postcards from the edge." You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Speak no more. And yeah, so I worked on and off with her for a few years. She was the funniest, smartest, and I learned everything about writing from her. It was like a master class. I mean, one of the first things we did was she wanted to write a book. She had to hand in a book, and it was being there from a blank page. So I know what you feel. You don't know what the page one is, and she's human, so it was like, what the heck, what am I writing? But she ended up writing Delusions of Grandma, and it was a really extraordinary experience. And you get into the rhythm of Hollywood and everyone, then all of a sudden you're on the other side of the looking glass, and it's really, every day is like, oh my God, I just hit Meryl Streep, and you're like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Right.
And then after a while, like, okay, Meryl's coming over, what, like everybody becomes people,
Right.
and you lose the facade and you remember who you are in the room. And although the average person walks into the room and beelines towards a celebrity, you know what I mean? Because when there's an old adage in Hollywood, either you are talent or you're sucking up to talent.
Right. Right.
And there the twain shall meet. You know what I mean? So I don't care how far up the corporate ladder you are in Hollywood, that is not considered talent. You are
Right.
either talent or you're sucking up to talent. And you know what? Like, I'll suck up to talent with the best of them, whatever. But it was like at some point I needed to be who I was and snapped out of there and then moved back to New York. But I was like, again, I'm the kind of person like I spent a few, like LA is a kind of city, especially back then and at that time in my life, that I felt like I was running out of gas here. There's something about Hollywood that there is that vapidity thing
Right.
that and I'm like a New York, I'm like a gritty New Yorker. I lived in this city through this, the garbage strikes in New York City,
Right.
and Son of Sam and like that, like that's my New York, you know what I mean? And Studio 54, and that was like the 70s in New York was like phenomenal. But I felt like I ran out of gas. I would move back to New York, and I would spend a few years there. And then I was like, "Oh, New York, the cold winter, get me the fuck out of here!" And I'd come back to LA. So I was like bouncing around because I am this person that just follows the instinct, And I hope I'm that till the end of it all. I don't want
Right.
to change that necessarily. I'd like more money, but whatever. That's like another conversation.
Well,
But
when the
Hollywood is so I'm back here again, and it's going to be feet first out. It's beautiful here, and I'm in like this little clustery tree-lined area. It's very bohemian, and it's like a really cool old 20s building with like French windows. It just they don't, it's got my name written all over it. So
right.
I was able to write my book here, and that's been like your zone is everything, that's what you look at, what you're reminded of. And I look out on these like old 100-year windows with 100-year trees, and it just feels like not LA and what everyone's perception of LA is.
Right. It's kind of it's almost kind of an escape from LA in LA. That's it had to
Totally. And it's
it had to be eye
uh,
opening working for Carrie Fisher. The immediate thing is, oh my God, she's a big star. And like you say, you're on the other side of the looking glass and you realize, because we know that Carrie Fisher, she seemed very down to earth. She was a great actress, a great talent, a great writer, but she went through some shit too, just like the rest of us.
100%. But she was so human that that's what made you just love her. And she was so funny. I mean, and I'm funny. So her and I were always like funny. It
Yeah.
was always like one-lining each other. I mean, it's a great loss that she's no longer with us, and the other things that she could have written and left behind would have, because I mean, I think the script of won't be of Postcards from the Edge is one of the great films. I don't know
Absolutely,
It's just
absolutely.
one of the it's really a perfect film. I mean, it's not necessarily on my top 10, but it is a perfect film. You know, it's just it's got all the bells and whistles that you want for a good kind of non, you know, like classic film, less
Right.
necessarily. It's
Or a
not
blockbuster.
Casablanca, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I personally prefer those kinds of films anyway, something with a message that makes you feel something as opposed to just jacks you up and waiting for the next guy to get his ass kicked. I like those movies too, but Carrie Fisher was certainly a special kind of talent. So
Oh,
people
she was unbelievable.
I know people wanted to know about it as soon as you mentioned it, so I wanted to bring it up. But we go from special talent to an absolute dumb fuck, meaning Donald Trump. Have you been following this situation with the gag order and how Donald Trump has decided he found a loophole and now he's going after the daughter of the judge,
The
which
daughter.
wasn't.
But what's the loophole? Because I know I haven't fully read that one yet.
Well, I don't know if it is in fact a loophole, but when the judge put the gag order out, it was about the prosecutors. You can't say anything about them or the families. You can't say anything about the court staff and the families. You can't say anything about the juries and the families. But a judge typically doesn't try to protect himself in those gag orders. So while it's an assumed, and anybody with a good lawyer would say, don't fuck with the judge. How did it go with Engeron? It didn't work well there. Why would you do it again? But, it's different with Donald Trump. He can't help himself. So it wasn't specifically identified that you can't go after the judge or his daughter. But they're looking at expanding that, and Donald Trump is shitting his pants. But I heard something interesting. And I don't know if this is true. Well, it does sound true, actually, but whether something will come out of it. Now, he's saying this about the daughter, may or may not be tied into the gag order. But in New York, and maybe you know this, there is a stalking law. And the stalking law says if you're going after somebody for no apparent reason and you're putting them in fear and in danger, that's fucking stalking. I don't know if that means they can sue him or if that means he can be arrested. I don't know what it is, but there may be something coming from a different angle here.
I mean, unless he's actually physically threatening her, I think that that's probably going to be where he's going to say, I'm not doing quite that. But other people, he's inciting other people to do that, I'm sure,
Right.
against her,
Absolutely.
which,
Absolutely.
which again, it's like his act. He gets other people to do his dirty work.
Yeah.
So he's always protected because as much as he's not smart, he's so evil
Yeah.
that it kind of masquerades as smart.
Well,
You know, the
criminal.
Trump Fox think he's smart because
Right.
he's such an evil piece of shit. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
One of the things I've felt, one of the things that I feel I'm not nervous about, the
Oh,
things
I
that
can
I'm
curse, right?
you say whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
like I tell my listeners, I said, my fucking show, I'll do whatever the fuck I want. If you don't like me cussing, go someplace else. I don't give a shit. Uh, and all the listeners know that attitude. No, and, you don't have to be appropriate here. We're not on
Okay.
TikTok. but
That
but what I've been disappointed by is that prior to Donald Trump, presidents in office had norms. We had the DOJ. You got to be fearful of the DOJ. You got to be fearful of Congress because if they subpoena you, man, you're in trouble. But what's been exposed is our judicial system seems to be toothless and seems the Congress is toothless. All these things that we assumed would be non-starters, Donald Trump has trampled all over them and done whatever the fuck he wants. So we've got a bigger problem than
it's
Donald Trump in that we've got a system that ain't fucking working.
it's not working. Our judicial system and Merrick Garland should be just ashamed of himself. There are people on TikTok that go, the wheels of justice take time. Yeah. And how come the raid at Diddy's house happened so fast? Because he's black?
Yeah,
You
no
know what
doubt,
I mean?
no doubt, No doubt. Well, yeah, the wheels with the system of the judicial system, you have to make allowances for some time because they do move slow. But that wheels of justice move slow can only go so far. I mean, it becomes ridiculous. I mean, when you go to trial and you're found guilty, and then you automatically appeal, and then you automatically appeal. What's the point of having the first trial if you can continually appeal it? Like in Georgia,
Agreed.
for example. I don't know if you heard this story.
Ah,
Now, Fonnie Willis, they were trying to disqualify her, right? Trying to disqualify her for whatever she did with her boyfriend or whatever. And in the end, there was no evidence, nothing, and they didn't disqualify her. So what does Donald Trump do today? Yesterday, he appeals it with the idea he's not going to win because they couldn't do it in the first place. But what pisses me off about this is, in order to appeal it, Donald Trump's lawyers had to go to the judge who had that finding and said, "Hey, can we appeal it?" Go, sure. What the fuck? Might as well appeal it. So the judge was culpable in delaying this thing. And that's what's frustrating. We're dealing with judges, whether it be in Florida or whether it be in Georgia.
everywhere.
They are complicit with what's going on here. And it's damaging this country and democracy and the judicial system every time they fucking do it. And that's disappointing.
And it's damaging our faith in the whole process,
And it should.
which is yeah, I find it to be, again, I feel like the more that I sound Pollyanna towards keeping democracy, but
Right.
it's like I did a post yesterday on my Substack, and it's like, it's not just about keeping our democracy. It's about wanting to be proud of being an American. Like what
Right.
I haven't heard that expression from a Democrat in years. I mean, proud to be an American. That song at the
Right. Right.
Trump
Right.
rallies, I hear all the time. But like, I don't know. Can we actually say we're proud when we look at the kind of lack of, you know, accountability on every level for the people that we're supposed to be voting for and respecting and admiring? Like, oh, I mean, it's almost like when it's like Hollywood. When we pull the curtain back and you get in and you see that everyone's just a basket case mess, and
Right.
that's the same thing with Congress. And, speaking of Congress, I mean, I know that the few good things we can just hold on to now is that we totally got the House, and Hakeem Jeffries is definitely going to be the speaker
No
come
question.
November, if not before.
Yeah, if not before.
you know, but and you see, like, there's something else about, like, who Nina Turner is? She was that mouthpiece for she was in Ohio politics, and she was that mouthpiece for Bernie Sanders, black woman,
Oh, okay.
just
Yeah.
big blabbermouth. Anyway, so she's like totally trashing Joe.
Yeah.
She's supporting the undecided vote. She runs to Michigan to help push that. Then she runs to Vegas to kind of, talk about like the people that are, she now wants to come off as the one who supports the people that what is it, the unions, all the
Right.
unions. We're supporting the unions. Well, if you support unions, then if Joe's the person you need to be promoting,
Right.
moron. I call her, and I was about to do a post, but then this happened. I call her the first black Karen in our politics. We never had a black Karen. We always see these horrible
No.
white women, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
She's a black Karen. I mean, fool. And it's definitely disappointing. And she's also out there mouthpiecing against black male voters, saying that the Democrats didn't do anything for you and you should. So who should, but they should go vote for for who?
well, I
It
mean,
makes no sense.
the thing when I see people like that, um, it makes me a little ill because I know what they're doing. It's all about promoting themselves, and they're willing to sacrifice the country to promote themselves. And that,
Right.
that's the fucking problem. And talk about self promotion. You mentioned it at the break. You wanted to talk about our our favorite congressman, Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan is probably one of the most despicable human beings I've ever seen, the most incompetent, the most stupid. And I swear to God, he and James Comer have some kind of embarrassment kink because everything they do, they embarrass themselves, and all they do
It's
is do it
embarrassing.
again. Yeah.
So here's what I want to do to help take down Jim Jordan. That's my priority now.
Okay.
Tammy Wilson won the primary and is running against him. That district has recently been, it was a very red district, so she lost it the last time too. But they what's the word when they
Readjusted
rejigger
it,
the, yeah,
got rid
so
of the gerrymandering.
they've changed the gerrymandering so it's less red.
Okay.
So she feels that she's going to have a better shot at it. So I'm taking on of the few races that I want to help get behind over the next few months, because if I just focus on the presidential thing, I'm going to end up jumping over, jumping off the bridge, you
I
know?
get it. I
So
get
I
it.
feel like it's good to put all this good positive energy into people that we really want to see suffer, which is Jim Jordan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody deserves to suffer. You can blame Donald Trump for a lot of things, most things, but just as guilty are the members of Congress that supported him no matter what. In
It's
2000
horrible.
in 2020, I was saying, after you've seen what you've seen and heard what you've heard, how can you still vote for Donald Trump? And that held true in 2020, but it's even worse now. If you voted for him in 2016, okay, people fuck up. 2020, you don't get any sway with me because you fucked up. You made the wrong choice. And if you're going to do it in 2024, you need to go. You need to leave this fucking country because you don't give a shit about it.
I mean, Mitch McConnell wins, I think, most horrible human being on earth.
Yeah, I would
He
have to say so.
actually ties with Trump and has days where he's actually worse. You know what I mean?
Well, you know why he's worse? I've said this about my father was a very much a Trumpian type figure back in the day. He made a lot of money for who he was, where he was, um, and he was very narcissistic, very self centered. And I always said that thank God my father didn't end up where Donald Trump was, because my father was a narcissist who was pretty smart. Thank God Donald Trump is a narcissist who's not very smart and does nothing but fail. And that's the same thing with Mitch McConnell. He's an evil motherfucker, but he's more dangerous because he is smart. He's like Joe Biden and he knows how the game is played and he plays it to a T. So, in that respect, he doesn't come off as abrasive as Donald Trump, but he's just as, if not more, dangerous.
I mean, there you can talk to me till you're blue in the face. That Elaine Chao only married him because he could make that company of her family's matter here in this
Oh,
country. Period. Because I mean,
and the only reason
it's just,
the only reason he married her, he needed a fucking beard. Excuse me for saying so.
hello. No, of course.
Because his background.
He was court-martialed, right?
I do. I wasn't
Uh,
going to mention it, but you sure the hell can.
He was court. I did the deep dive research. That was my greatest accomplishment on earth
Yeah.
outside of the book, was that he was in a military and he was court-martialed according to, like, there was no reason for him to be court-martialed. He said he just wanted to, get out of it, but it was weird that he was court-martialed for inappropriate activities, which AKA homosexual activity.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
For someone who's gay, I couldn't think of anybody more nauseating. It's just like you put it, whatever.
Well,
But
maybe Lindsay.
yeah,
But you know,
uh,
you know, I give people like them shit because they're gay. And I want people to understand it has nothing to do with a prejudice against gay people because I don't have that. I don't, you know, I always tell people, I'll tell you that story after, but um, um, these are people who are LGBTQ, gay, whatever you want to call them, and they're doing everything they can to hurt their own fucking people. They won't own up to it, and and it's not enough that they won't own up to it. They won't own up to who they are, but then they try to damage the community they're from. I mean, that's talk about self-hatred.
yeah. I mean, those are that's unconscionable. It just I don't know. I have no pity for people who are self-hating in that way.
No.
I don't have I don't have empathy for that. I don't have empathy for MAGA. I don't at all. I would sooner see, those internment camps from the 40s that they put the Japanese Americans in. I
Right.
would like, to round up all the MAGAs and stick them in those internment camps, give them all lobotomies. I don't know if you've ever gone to I have like a kind of what's it called, an Etsy shop where I
Yeah.
have Abe's lobotomy farms. And
Yeah. You got to get me
where
one of
somebody
those.
bought one of the shirts. I was so excited that someone's walking around with like, and I like recreated like a farm picture. But it's like half kidding and half I wish it was only true.
You know, I found out I accidentally found out how to deal with somebody who was talking to me, you know, thinking that I'm a friend in this matter. When people come to me
Lived hard.
and yeah, lived no, they when I was talking to a couple one time who was bemoaning uh, LGBTQ and gay people and it's not right and it's against the Bible and all that stuff. I said, they said, "How do you feel about it?" I go, "I don't personally normally care what anybody does in their sex life, but obviously it's important to you." Well, yeah, it's an abomination. I said, "Okay, okay. Since we are now worried about what people do in their bedroom, what the fuck do you guys do? You have a swing? You have toys? What?" And they're looking and they look at me like, "What? What?" I said, "What do you guys do sexually? I'm just curious." And they say, "That's none of your business." And I go, "That's my fucking point. So shut the fuck up."
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm so over like having survived all the well, first of all, I've been attacked for my religion since I'm like 5.
right,
So I
right,
mean, I'm so over people who don't want other. I'm other. I might look like a white person, but technically to a lot of people I'm very much other. You know
right,
what I mean?
right.
And I just, that's the one thing I have to say is, in hindsight, was such a gift that I had parents who survived the Holocaust, because that DNA, it's that is my DNA. That is There is something that's transmuted, whatever the expression is. It's a form of PTSD, which is now being, written about and studied, but it gives me a steel spine for these motherfuckers. I mean, I dare anybody to come in front, confront me like these fucking people walking around with babushkas over their face. Like, what
Right.
is it, fucking Halloween? Fuck
Yeah.
you.
Well, you know, and what I try to tell the younger people, even in the older people, maybe they don't remember, but when it comes to racism, when it comes to anti-Semitism, when it comes to um, LGBTQ, if you go back to the '60s and '70s, it was fucking accepted back then. If you said the N word, no big deal. If you called somebody the F word, a gay person, no big deal. You said it all the time. It was accepted. So if you were part of those minorities, if you will, uh, life was not fucking easy. It was hard.
Yeah, but then political correctness also kind of evolved into our new
Yeah.
vernacular, and it's really, I've have very little tolerance for public, for PC, whatever. I wrote a
I agree.
nine-page article back in that when I had that my I mean what era.
Yeah.
I just wrote I was like, I want to call anybody whatever the fuck I want. It is not a slight against them. It's just words. And now that words, every word has such meaning now, and everyone's so sensitive, and it just people again, the F word, whatever. Oh, you
Now,
know what I mean? Why would that it just to me, I don't know,
when I
whatever.
when I say the F word, I'm not talking about fuck. I'll say fuck all day.
No,
I'm
I'm
talking.
saying fag. I
Yeah.
get it, girl. I get it, girl. You
I
know what
I,
I
I
mean?
mean I won't say that. There's one other word. I
Oh,
people
I
say
do. You know
well
what I mean?
yeah,
But I'm allowed.
but there's one other word I cannot say for my own safety, and I hear a lot of people on TikTok say it. And as much as I swear you might be surprised, but I will not say the C word. That's just a bridge too
Oh,
far for my
really?
wife. I'll
In
wake up.
England, it's an everyday word.
I
In
know, it
England,
is.
it's like, yeah. Look, you come from a good family, whatever, and
Relatively
your
speaking,
wife would probably smack you in the face,
at the very
and
least.
yeah.
At the very least. I
I
mean,
mean, I don't think it's a fun word. I think it's a great word, but I get that there's only a time and place for that. I
I
like vag because match the vag. And then Trump just probably just squeezes his vag when since no one else wants to play down with.
wow, wow. There ain't no
He has
PC
a
here.
built-in vag.
Yeah, no shit. Well, he probably needs it.
He can
I
grab his own pussy. That's all there is to it.
You know what I don't understand about this guy, Donald Trump, is, he talks about like he's like a playboy or something, and people said he's like a playboy. Here's a big, dumpy guy that shits his pants and smells horribly. The only possible way he could get laid is if somebody actually believed he had money, because, God damn it, that's like going into a war zone.
I don't think I don't think that's happening. I mean, and
I
look
don't
I
either.
mean, I'm sure a lot of those horrible women are throwing themselves at him down in Mar-a-Lago. I mean,
Yeah,
I
there's
mean, here's the bigger thing. Let's face it. Where is the CIA? We found fucking what was this? Who was the one from Iraq?
oh
Who
yeah,
was
yeah,
the one that was
and the
what
Russian
was
one.
his name?
Oh, I
No.
can't
Wait,
remember.
what? Um, Saddam Hussein. We found fucking Saddam Hussein in the underground in the middle of nowhere.
Right,
We
right.
can't get Stinky gone, who's making appearances in every fucking country and every fucking minute.
Well, that
How is our CIA not putting an end to this?
yeah, it
And you finish that and you finish that sentence with because they actually want him around.
it seems to
It's
be.
gross.
Well, when we look at the CIA and the FBI, people have to understand there are still supporters of Donald Trump in both those organizations. Why they weren't flushed out the moment Joe Biden came in, I have no fucking clue. You don't need that kind of cancer bouncing around in your organizations, especially when you're trying to deal with rule of law and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, what Donald Trump was involved in, sexually speaking, with Epstein or whatever, they pussyfoot around it. And you brought up the P Diddy, he got attacked, but even he got away with it because he has money and fame for decades. This country
There I
does
just
have a
I'm
two.
looking
Go ahead.
yeah, I just want to share something. There's a documentary that's coming out that was just featured on MSNBC called Against All Enemies. Have you heard about this?
No, I haven't.
It talks about why our military in such unusual large numbers is going to these far right factions against the country that they fought for. So I'll email it to you and you may want to
Absolutely.
take a peek at it. But
I think when we're talking about the military, it's kind of the culture there. One of the things I've learned by dealing with people who've been in the military, they are taught we are warriors, everybody else is pussies. So we want somebody strong, and it's us against everybody. It's a mentality, and maybe they need that mentality to be in the military, but there's a problem with the culture in the military.
no, no, definitely. And the other thing is that we need to be prepared that no matter what, like this is where Biden better get his shit together, or else I'm going to go in there and smack him around. If we win, Trump's not going to go away.
No.
So what we saw on January 6th is going to be all over the country. So by the summer, I want to see mobilization of troops. I don't care what, I know people think I'm crazy for saying this. Like when they put the military in the subways in New York City, like, yeah, and fuck you, period.
Yeah.
Getting who wants to get thrown in front of a train? Like,
Yeah.
fuck off. You don't want that? No, no, it's a, and that's a, and this is where I'm beginning to sound like a little too concerned for my own good. But I think the First Amendment needs a little bit of a revisit, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think
Like it can't just be fire in the theater is the only thing that you can get arrested for.
well, and I think the fact that we have a constitution that has amendments means it can be fucking changed or adjusted. It doesn't mean that it's like every other publication people want to go word for word, whether it be the Bible, the Quran, or whatever. Times change, things change, and they have to be adjusted to be in accordance with the times. I I just I think that um I know you're worried about these mass attacks like at 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 the Capitol in January 6th. I don't see that happening. I don't see that. I'm not saying there aren't going to be some lone gunmen going out and doing some crazy shit. I expect that because there's just some crazy fuckers. But we're looking at a different time than you really can't compare 2021 to this time because Donald Trump had everything going for him on January 6th. He was the president. He had power. He had people in the DOJ. He had power. He had people in Congress. They all got together and put this thing together. The crazy thing is they had everybody working for them and they still fucking failed. Now
Agreed.
I'll guarantee you that if there's a crowd of mouth breathing, red meat eating pieces of shit going against the Capitol, it's going to be a vastly different experience. Joe Biden's not going
You
to fuck
think?
around with that. I think the National Guard won't be
All
held
right.
back.
Well, I'm going to believe you because I always like when you speak about that. If you think that's going to happen, you're completely wrong. Okay. I like that. You know what I mean?
Well,
I'm going to, you know, divert to you and when I freak out. But
there's evidence of it though too.
I am ye of little faith when it comes to people like extremists, like
Yeah,
what we're seeing with the people wearing like Halloween outfits already early. It's like Halloween came too early for this crowd. And the Trumplicans, which are also very much,
yeah.
Halloween. They're like Halloween. It's like Halloween 24 hours a day now in
Yeah,
America.
it is. Well, there is some evidence that they won't come out. When Donald Trump gets indicted, oh, everybody's up in an uproar.
True. True. No, no, no.
There's little things
I'm
in the internet, and Donald Trump says we got to fight like hell. Nobody shows up. Nobody showed up because at their origins, all these people are bullies. And bullies only walk into situations where they know they can win. When they know there's going to be pushback, they don't fucking show. And in this
mm,
situation right now, there's going to be some heavy pushback. There would have been a lot of dead Trumplafucks at the Capitol on the 2021 had Joe Biden or some other Democratic president been there. You don't allow
right,
that thing to happen. I mean, my wife was upset.
right.
She was crying. She goes, "How can this happen to our Capitol?" And she's absolutely right. That should never have happened. That was horrible optics, and it was an embarrassment for this country. And no real president would allow that to happen.
Right. Yeah, no, no. I mean, I am going to go with that.
Okay.
I am going to, you've talked me off the ledge.
All right.
Um, but then when you see what people like Hamas do, and Hamas is very much like those people from January 6th.
Yeah, they are.
They'll take no, they will take prisoners. That's like, could you imagine if they actually got to Nancy Pelosi? I mean, the coulda, woulda, shouldas on that day is just remarkable.
You know,
Remarkable that we were like, what's that country where that around the same time that happened? I think that happened also in somewhere in South America where they were like that guy Maltazaro, whatever. It was like, it's like we're like a third world country.
yeah, it really is. I mean, it's disappointing and it's embarrassing, and Donald Trump is at the core of that. That's why we are in the situation we're at. But let me say this: if on January 6, 2021, the National Guard was there and they would have mowed down the first rows of those Trumplafucks, it would have been a much different situation. It would have been a much different climate right now. And I'm not saying I'm all for killing people, but if you're trying to kill other people and trying to overthrow our government, fuck around and find out.
Toodles.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolute toodles. But I don't know, Joe is a kinder soul, and would imagine, yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, all I know is that Trump is not gonna walk away easily this time again, you
Well,
know.
people say people will tell me they'll say if Trump loses, all his base will say it was a hoax, it was faked, it was whatever, and Donald Trump won't shut up. But you got to understand, after taking another beating, Donald Trump and the Trumplafucks don't have the strength that they had after 2020. They've lost a lot, and they're losing more.
Yes, and but then there is that whole thing about the vote, and the Republicans are going to vote early. They're going
Yeah.
to bank votes. We're up against our same good old fashioned apathy with Democrats and
Yeah.
I mean, again, that's why I feel like if I'm going to try to appeal to people on like the one vote, be a one issue voter. If you love yourself, that's who you have to vote for, what's best for the person that you love,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and just try to appeal to a more emotional. I want to come back from a place of emotional as best as I can,
Yeah.
because and the same thing with why I want to help Tammy Wilson in Ohio in the 10th district, because Jim Jordan is the kind of evil that would stay in power. Like Trump is actually not the worst part of this whole thing. It's like if the Christian nationalists come into, I think here's one thing I definitely want to, I want your opinion on. His choice for vice president, I guarantee you, is going to be a selection by the Heritage Foundation,
Yeah.
because I think they want to just shoo that pig into the White House, and then before you know it, Sirhan's going to come out of nowhere and
Well,
put that vice president, Christian nationalist approved candidate, right into the seat.
right. Well, yeah, yeah, you may be right about that. The thing about it is that I believe that when Donald Trump came into office, they didn't want him in there because he's an idiot. But then when he did get in, I don't think his intentions initially were evil because he's all about people loving him and getting adoration and all that stuff. I think what happened is here's what I know about narcissists. If you know anything about a narcissist, if you understand them, you can manipulate the fuck out of them because all you have to do is pat them on the back, tell them they're geniuses, and they'll do whatever you say and they think it's their idea. And I think what happens is he got into office and people figured out how he can be manipulated. Then all these evil motherfuckers came in and played him like a puppet. I think that's what happened. And then ultimately he became evil because he doesn't know any better.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that that's the problem, is that he's a as I go. Wait, I want to just read it to you because it's kind of funny.
Okay.
1 second, let me find it.
He's basically a useful idiot, is what he
Yeah,
is.
definitely useful idiot, but as I like to say, he is a, where is it? Oh fuck, I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about it. No rush. This is casual. We do whatever the fuck we do.
Okay. Let me just find the word. Marionette. Oh, it's like I said, Lord knows. Okay, if we lose in November to the Christian nationalists who are funding and pulling the strings of that lump of lard, marionette,
Exactly.
Trump, the country we have come to love, warts and all, will be lost.
I
When we
agree.
see who Stinky's VP choice will be, we should know that the Heritage Foundation has set that in motion.
Well,
I crack myself up. It's a problem. I do.
well, that's all right. That's all right. It's funny. No, but that's one thing too.
It's a marionette. I mean, that's one big fat fucking marionette.
Yeah,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean?
Absolutely. You talked about, them getting a VP in there and somebody taking out Donald Trump. And we've talked about the Civil War if Donald Trump loses. I personally think, and I may be wrong about this, but I'll never admit to being wrong about it. If Donald Trump were to win, and I honestly don't believe there's any way he can win, but if he were to win, I think that's when the violence starts. He's going to have a target on his back because there are so many people in this country terrified that they are going to lose their lives, lose their livelihoods, lose their country. Democrats got some fucking crazy people too. And so
Oh no, no. I love that. That I love.
I'm more worried about Democrats uh an upheaval with Democrats should he win than I am Republicans getting crazy after he loses. I really, honestly, I am.
Interesting. That's interesting. I mean, I get it. I love it. I'll go with it. It would be interesting. It would be
Hey,
interesting,
well, Abe,
sure.
I didn't
It
ask
would
you
be
to
nice to
support it.
turn the show.
I didn't ask you to support it. Maybe you're the crazy fucker we got to worry
It would be
about.
it would be nice for the shoe to be on the other foot. You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, no, I think
But
one of the things I learned by doing the TikToks all day, every day. You told me, you said I talked to you off a ledge. I talk so many people off the ledge every day, not just in the TikToks, people DMing me. I got one guy that sends me a DM every day. Oh, this is a problem. What the fuck's going on? I got to talk them off the ledge. I don't have time to talk everybody off the ledge on DMs, but people are that terrified. And when you get people terrified, they react erratically.
right. Yeah, no, I love that people feel like they can send me like I mean, I'm sure you get as much as I do, probably more people that thank you for being
Absolutely.
helping me through that. Like, I mean, come on. Come on. That's like forget about everything else.
Yeah,
If we can help the spiritual path is if you could help one person, you've done good. If
exactly.
we help how many hundreds and it's probably by now thousands of people that have direct messaged me, I'm sure you, things that just make you really feel like, okay, that's why I'm doing this. You're not doing okay, okay, fame, shmame. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? That's not the issue.
No.
The issue is being wanting to be part of you that other you want to share that it's a goodness there's goodness like if it we hear all too many times, oh, people aren't kind anymore. Well, people are kind.
There are some, yeah.
That's go find them. You know what I mean? Find them, follow them, listen to them, talk to them, share with them. I just kind of feel like I'm not giving up on like the ability for people to, in the 0 hour in the voting booth, remember who they are. Like
I,
I refuse to let go of that.
I will tell you the one benefit I derive from being on TikTok or the podcast that I never expected. And if that's the only thing that I get from it, it's worth it, is the fact that people do come to me and say, God, I was scared to death. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. But what you said helped me calm down. And I'm not telling people ideas that I just have. And just because I say it, that's it. I'm basing it on facts. Here's the facts.
Right,
And
right.
this is
Yeah,
what you can
no, no,
derive
that's
from
your
those
whole
facts.
shtick for sure.
So
Yeah.
so if I can give people a little bit of peace, I feel like I'm blessed to be able to do that. That wasn't my intention, but if that's the way it works, fucking great.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, not to self-plug, but that's why my book is this great opportunity to see, shit, this is this guy, this if he can get through that, I can.
Well,
It's a
right.
journey, it's and that is the hope that we get to remember that we are people and we have to put a hand out whenever they can to pull somebody along when they're in these places of confusion and conflict and fear. Like I'm so what's more upsetting is just how fearful people are.
Absolutely.
Like America was never I never looked at America as a fearful people. You know what I mean? Like when that's new. That's gross.
Yeah,
And it's new.
I feel like as a country, as a people in this country, we're all like part of an abusive family. When we get out of this, we're going to need to do some fixing because we've been abused and traumatized and scared to death for 7 years. We've
Yeah.
had a lot of negativity. We need books like the one you wrote or talking about the things we talk about because there are good things. But if it weren't for that, people would believe that everything's negative, everything's going to shit, and the world's coming to an end. And that's just not the case.
No, 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 no. But yeah, Tammy Wilson, we all have to get behind Tammy Wilson. So what I'm gonna just put in a plug to say, find me on TikTok, won't be silent,
Right. Definitely.
or for sure the book, and you can go to, the
Tell
won't be
them
silent.
tell them about the. We're going to wrap things up, but tell them about the book again because I want to make sure people get it.
All right. So I wrote a book, it's called Won't Be Silent, Don't Stop Till It Matters. And the Won't Be Silent is the call to action for me as someone who feels that is in this very turbulent political life we've been living since 2016,
Right.
15, um, that we have to remember that as much apathetic against the vote exists in this country, which only such a small majority of us vote, but that our voice is our vote. And I won't be silent by voting. That's your commitment as an American. That's a gift. That's what we've been blessed with. And as humans, what we are gifted with, which is like no other animal, is that we have the power to forgive. That's an extraordinary thing and a power that is really just gets underestimated. But so the it won't be silent. Don't stop till it matters. And that's me wanting to have found why I'm on earth to say and be who I am with a feeling that I'm here for a mission and I feel like I matter. And after the word matter has been bastardized over the past few years, whether it's Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, everybody matter, red people matter,
Right.
the point is forget about other people. Do you matter? And what do you
Right.
do to make yourself feel like you matter? And that's my journey of getting through a lot of trials and tribulations and addiction and all the things that nobody should have to go through, but we all do, or a lot of us do. And I have found a way to, through humor, get through the ups and downs of how life is. And it all culminates at the ability to find that with Won't Be Silent, I was able to feel, whether I'm right or not, that I was part of helping get Trump out of the White House. And I feel part of that
I
community
do too.
that banded together. And we did that.
Yeah,
And this
we did
book
that with
will
the
help
help of
you
the.
decide what you do to get there to feel that. And that's the book.
Well, and
Won't Be
I
Silent on Amazon.
on Amazon. Get Won't Be Silent. But I think the one thing that your book illustrates too is that you don't have to be rich and famous. You don't have to do all this crazy stuff. The fact is, we all matter, and we should recognize that and accept that for ourselves too. And that's what you're trying to tell in the book.
Definitely, because we live in a culture that because of, and I'll blame this on Trump and that whole 80s aspirational society. See,
Right.
the 70s was very inspiring. It was
Right.
crazy, and the 60s and 70s, but that was an inspirational time in this country. Things were changing and developing, and advertising and everything was just like inspired. And then Trump comes along and stinks up the entire planet
Right.
in the 80s. And then it was all about aspirational society. And then the Kardashians happen. So now everybody wants like a big ass and whatever, and it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's like if you lose your sense of what inspires you, then you're just like everybody else. And there's enough of those people. And my my journey and everyone's journey should be to find the inspiration on earth, because the aspiration is just going to drive you nuts.
The Kardashians confuse me to no end. You're
Ugh.
I'm married, and the reason why they confuse me is because when my wife would ask that ultimate question, she doesn't anymore. We're older now, but she goes, "Does this make my ass look big?" I didn't know what the fuck to say. No,
You
yeah,
be
I don't fucking know.
that answer has changed now, right?
Yeah, it's changed.
I'm married too, and whatever. I just feel like life is just whatever you're going to make the best of it. And that's why, again, I want to take it back home to, if you love yourself, you're going to vote for how you can continue to love yourself for who you are. If you're a woman and you're worried about your rights, your body autonomy, you know who you're voting for. If you're a gay man, these gays for fucking Palestine, please, I'll throw them off a roof.
Yeah.
Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, shut up, Mary. I have like zero tolerance for that shit. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's embarrassing. It makes the it makes the log cabin Republican queens seem interesting. You know what I mean? And those people, I have like no tolerance for. Republican gays are like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Anyway,
well,
but
well,
yeah,
well,
that's the message, just speak up. You have a vote. That's a gift on earth as an American. If you don't take that as something precious, then you're a moron.
yeah, yeah. It-
Sorry, I'm
I
it's
agree
one or
with
the
you.
other.
I agree with you.
Voter, actually, remember in MTV when the campaign was vote or die?
Yeah.
Oh, honey, bring that back. Yeah,
Yeah, there's
just
something to be said about that. But I think the important message is that we will get through this.
yeah,
And this too shall pass. It's going to be painful
right.
while it's passing, but it will pass.
Ugh.
Turns out I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. on November 7th. And the whole
Are you?
podcast, when it turns out the way I expect, the whole podcast will be me laughing my fucking ass off. That's all it's going to be.
From DC.
From DC. I'll do it. I'll do
I
it.
love that.
And cat calling Trumplafucks. Anyway, well, Abe,
Where are
thank.
you? Where in the country? Where in the country are you?
I'm in Minnesota.
Oh,
I'm in
okay.
Minnesota, but my wife and I have a place down in Savannah, Georgia, too, which is a wonderful place. Have you
Oh,
ever?
Savannah is so amazing. There's a great chapter in my book called That All Happens in Savannah,
I love the
and
place.
it's amazing. It's called, where is it? Where is it? Okay. Not Scarlet Savannah.
Right. It's a beautiful place. It's
Oh, it's
historical.
beautiful.
Yeah, beaches nearby. And I told, when we went through this whole thing where people were all worried about uh, white people becoming the minority. When I went down to Savannah, I looked it up, and Savannah is 59% black and like 35% white. And I said, if that's what it's like when I'm the minority, these are the nicest fucking people I've ever met in my life. Give me the minority because
Yeah.
it's a wonderful place. The people are
No,
wonderful. The
Savannah's
place is nice.
gorgeous. The architecture, oh my God,
Yeah.
and it's the third most haunted city in the United States.
And my wife's real big on those. I guess I am too. The haunted shows and stuff like that. And we've gone on all the tours and stuff. So
Yeah, of course. I can't. You have to read the book now just for that chapter
I'm
alone.
definitely going to read the book. I'll get it.
You're gonna love it.
Uh, all right, Abe, thank you for coming on. It's
No,
been an
thank you.
absolute
That was
pleasure.
someone. Look how long we went on for talking. It felt
Yeah.
like it went zipped by.
Yeah, no, we went on for a while, and that's fine because I know the people will enjoy it. And Abe, you're welcome to come back anytime. It's so easy to do a show with somebody like you. I don't have to work nearly as hard. So anytime you'd like to come back.
Okay, well, I will definitely take you up on that, especially when I get organized with this Tammy Wilson thing, because you have to help me take down Jim Jordan.
I'm in. I'm in. I will do anything I can to do that. And just to let you know, there are no invitations to being a guest on the show. All you have to do is send me an email and say, Mike, I'm ready to go on. I'll go, okay, how about tonight, tomorrow, the next day? We'll do
No,
it.
no, no. I'm telling you, I have a meeting with the head of her marketing, whatever people. I just want to come up with a strategy to
Absolutely.
get everyone's ducks in a row. It would,
Eh,
how much fun would it be to have him lose to a woman? It's just orgasmic already.
I
You
would,
know what I mean?
I would love it. So, thank you, Abe. For
Thank you
those,
so much. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you online.
absolutely. And for those of you listening, thank you for taking the time to do that. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.